Hi, I'm Park Howell, and welcome to the Business of Story, where purpose-driven people like you learn how to craft and tell compelling stories to grow your revenue and amplify your impact. If you would like to clarify your story in under 30 minutes, visit me at businessofstory.com, because you gotta own your story to grow your brand.
I thought it was just a stupid picture of a pig in the ocean. But after hearing that story, I had to have it. Now I wasn't just buying a picture, I was buying a story. Story literally made the picture worth more money to me.
That's what businesses are about. People buy brands, people buy stories much more than anything else.
I work with a lot of big enterprise companies, but let's just say I always tell folks, drop the PowerPoint, close your laptops, start with your story.
If you want people to get engaged and you want people to act, you have to tell them an emotionally powerful story. That's with great characters, it's with uncertain outcomes, and it's with high stakes and drama.
All business strategy is a story.
God knows I'm an expert at overcomplicating my business. Do you know the feeling? And yet every smart business coach and story consultant I interview tells me the same thing: focus and simplify. And I know they're so right, because just since I refined my message right here at Business of Story to help business leaders with purpose-driven organizations clarify their stories to grow revenue and amplify their impact, everything has gotten easier. I'm clearer about my own purpose, and I'm attracting the kinds of customers that I can have the most impact on and with. Well, today's guest sings the same tune, actually whispers it. Cameron Herold is known as the CEO Whisperer. They also call him the business growth guru, because he has a proven system to guide his clients to double their revenue and profit in just 3 years or less. Cameron has led an entrepreneur's story from day one. At age 21, he had 14 employees. By 35, he had built his first 2 $100 million companies. By the age of 42, Cameron engineered 1-800-GOT-JUNK's spectacular growth from $2 million to $106 million in revenue and 3,100 employees. And he did that in just 6 years. His companies landed over 5,200 media placements in that same 6 years, and he even got on Oprah. Oprah! Yeah, that's right. Now, as a sought-after growth guru, Cameron created the COO Alliance, the leading network of high-growth chief operating officers in the world. He is the author of the global best-selling business book Double Double, now in its 7th printing and in multiple translations around the world. Plus, he's authored The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs and Meetings Suck, turning one of the most loathed elements of businesses into one of the most valuable. On today's show, you'll learn tips on how to uncomplicate your business to give it free rein for growth, why your meetings suck and what you can do about it, and what a miracle morning looks like and how you can start waking up in your own tomorrow. I'm not going to overcomplicate this intro anymore, so let's get after it with Cameron Herold. Cameron, it is so great to have you on our show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Park. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Our trails crossed here in Phoenix a few months ago, but actually even before that, when I had Brian Scudamore of 1-800-GOT-JUNK on the show, I did not realize who you were at the time and the work you did to help grow that company. So it's really great to have now kind of bookended that story. Why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory about who you are and what you do and how you help CEOs grow their companies?
Sure. It's funny. I actually bumped into Brian and his wife yesterday. I was going for a run down by the ocean. I bumped into them on my run. So my past, I've been coaching for the last 10 years, coaching and mentoring CEOs all over the world. Typically a lot of technology companies, but typically companies with 50 to 500 employees tends to be the niche that I work in. I've also done paid speaking events in 28 countries on 5 continents. And I started a group called the COO Alliance, which is the only network of its kind in the world for second in commands. I'm the author of 3 books, Double Double, Meetings Suck, and The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, and really got a lot of my background and experience with 3 companies that I built. I was a big part of the leadership team of College Pro Painters, which is the largest residential house painting company in the world. I was a partner in the franchising group for a group called Boyd Auto Body and Glass, which is now Gerber Auto Collision in the US. And then I was president of a private currency company that we built and sold back in kind of the height of the .com era. And then from there went on and become the chief operating officer for 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And I helped that company go from 2 million to 106 million in 6 years. I left there 10 years ago and started coaching entrepreneurs.
So you worked with a lot of different kinds of companies. What do they all have in common that you found that you could link into to help them grow to where you got them?
Sure. I mean, a lot of it's people, right? The people issues are always going to remain the same, not going to be automated, not going to be outsourced. So it's all related to operations, execution, people, and culture. And I really help companies understand that culture is not about the wee room and the free lunch. It's how to align people around a common vision. It's how to make sure that you do bring the right people into the organization. It's helping them build communication channels with each other and helping to, leverage their growth using technology. So what I do is I work behind the scenes, coaching the executive teams of companies and really giving them the best systems in the world to help them grow.
And what do you find, this being a show all about story and storytelling, what are some of their biggest challenges around them finding their story and communicating it?
Yeah, I guess there's two areas. One is the story of their past, and then the second is the story of the future. And I'll start with the story of the future. A lot of entrepreneurs have in their mind an idea of what their company looks like. They could almost play a movie of what their company looks like 3 years in the future, but they've never really communicated or articulated that to their employees or customers, suppliers, and shareholders. So the only people who can really see the future clearly and understand the story of the future is the entrepreneur. And I help them to craft that story in what I call a vivid vision. And a vivid vision is a 4 or 5 page written document that describes their company in vivid detail 3 years from now, December 31st, 3 years from today. And it describes every aspect of their company as if they were standing in the future. And when they can tell that story and everyone can see what they can see, that's where the real alignment starts to happen. And then the employees can figure out the plans in terms of how to make that happen. So that would be the first story. And then the second story is really the story of their past and their culture and where they came from. I think it's really important that people understand that because it really solidifies the core values and our core purpose for the company. When entrepreneurs talk about their struggles in the early days and they talk about why they started and how they built the business, those are really important lessons that all the employees and customers need to understand because it really sets the tone for who we are today.
Was that the same as an origin story?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've got a really good example of the vision document on your own website at CameronHerold.com. I read through that and I loved it because it was so powerful. It was so optimistic. Everything about it is like, here is what my glowing vision looks like in 3 years. What about the conflict side of it? Because it's never that easy. How do you connect those two worlds of here's what I'm ultimately going after, but I know it's not going to be just as easy as doing it. We're going to have conflict in this process.
Yeah, it starts getting easier once people all are aligned and everyone knows where we're going. There's a lot less conflict when everyone can see what the entrepreneur or the CEO can see, right? So then we're not trying to align people because they're already making decisions with very similar intuition. One thing that we try to do to remove conflict is a lot more of the face-to-face discussions, either over video or in person. But to try to, when you do a lot of writing back and forth between people, whether it's on Slack or on text messaging or on email, that's where a lot of the miscommunication and frustration can come in. So I try to remove that and get people back into the face-to-face communication, even if it's quick little video discussions with each other for a minute or two.
So Cameron, take us back to your days working at 1-800-GOT-JUNK, because what you had mentioned to me over lunch I thought was really fascinating of how you were able to build the company to be quite a large operation, but then I guess you felt like maybe it needed to be handed off to someone else to take it to the next level?
Sure. That was as I was leaving the organization. We'd really gotten the team, so I joined the company. There were 14 people at the head office. When I left, there were 248 people at the head office, 3,000 system-wide. We'd gone from being in 12 cities when I started to, when I left, 330 cities, 4 countries. So we'd become a very large organization with matrix decision-making and company politics and, just a lot more moving parts. And I was really the right person to help them grow from 2 million to 100 million, but I was not the person to go from 100 million to the billion. And it just requires a very different skill set. In fact, I was talking recently to Clayton Mask, who's the CEO of Infusionsoft, and we were talking about the fact that it's very rare that any leader can take a company on more than 2 consecutive doubles of revenue. And really, I did 6 consecutive doubles because we doubled 100% 6 years in a row. So it's really hard for an executive's skill set to really stay at that level when you're moving that quickly. So it was the right time for me to move on.
And you and Brian are good friends, in addition to being colleagues that grew this company fast. Was it hard to move on? Was it hard to come to that realization that you needed to do something else?
Oh, for sure. It was like, it was definitely hard. I mean, it was a very, very painful, it was like a divorce. It was a very, very painful experience to go through. But again, it was the right thing at the time for the company to truly find the next leader.
And what do you do when you're coaching your leaders, your clientele now, and are finding maybe a client in that same situation and they've got to get very clear that it's not going to work the way it's working, and getting them to accept that, move on?
Well, one is to really kind of hire ahead of the curve and hire people that are, have the skill set to do what you're going to need them to do because they've already been there. So it's really understanding what your growth trajectory looks like in advance and having a lot of time to plan and work with those people, but also to hire people, before you actually need them. So you also just need to keep raising people's skill sets as they go. And then it's a lot about communication and just having open communication with people that, the company is just really different. Look, when I joined the company, again, there were 12 people at the head office. When I left, there were 250. It's just the scope and the span of command of what we were building, and what we built was just much bigger than my skill set at that point. And it ended up taking them 12 months to find my replacement. They brought in the former president of Starbucks US. And
I understand that maybe that didn't go as planned.
Yeah, didn't work out. She wasn't the right culture fit. She had all the right skills, but I think she was very corporate and believed a lot in consultants and really didn't believe in the entrepreneurial journey and, the experience that franchisees could actually add.
How did you see their story change, or does it necessarily change when you see an organization that grows that quickly?
Whose story? Starbucks or 1-800-GOT-JUNKS?
No, 1-800-GOT-JUNK and or anybody that you've been working with. Do you see that their story has to mature or change, or is it literally the same story just told on a bigger, more epic stage?
I'm not even really sure. I really haven't followed the story of 1-800-GOT-JUNK since I left. I really left in almost the pinnacle of our growth. And then they went through a pretty tough 3-year period with the recession, the housing crisis, and, problems that new leader had brought into the company. So I kind of disconnected in terms of really understanding where they are. And a lot of my old friends aren't even there anymore.
Oh, I got you. Now, I want to jump over to your library. You are the author of 3 different books. The second one I'm looking at cracks me up. Meetings Suck. Tell us about this. What's this about?
Yeah, Meetings Suck was really came off of a discussion I had with one of the CEOs that I coach, where he was complaining about their company meetings. And I said, the problem isn't meetings. The problem is that we've never trained our employees on how to run meetings or how to attend meetings or even how to participate in meetings. So they really don't know how to run good meetings. They can't complain that meetings suck. Maybe the fact is that they just don't have the skill sets to run them. So we started to pull together the core concepts and core practices to run highly effective meetings. And when I did that, I realized that people needed to be shown how to lead meetings, and then also how to attend and participate at the meetings they were in. And then they needed to know what meetings they needed to run to build highly successful companies. So we built Meetings Suck as really a tool that all employees at all companies are now reading.
Can you give us a few tips from Meetings Suck that we can use immediately to make our meetings better?
Sure. So, one of them is that people always complain that, everybody's late for meetings. They don't care and blah, blah, blah. Well, the reality is the reason people are late for meetings is everything is booked back to back in our calendars. So what I do is I have people finish every meeting and finish every phone call 5 minutes prior to the scheduled ending time. So regardless of who books the meeting, you just at the start of the meeting say that we're going to finish 5 minutes early. That way we can show up on time for our next meeting or our next phone call. And in doing that, you really actually set the tone that we're serious about things, but also that we respect other people's time and we respect the individual. And that's been just huge, putting that in place in companies. And it requires no effort whatsoever.
And how about getting people to arrive on time, even if you give them that 5-minute buffer to actually get them there so that meeting gets underway when planned?
Well, but again, the reason that they tend up showing up late is they're finishing the prior meeting on time. So if you and I are on a call from 12 o'clock until 1 o'clock and we finish exactly on time, there's no way that I can walk down the hall and be on time. So by finishing 5 minutes early, by finishing at 12:55, I can walk down the hall. I can talk to my assistant. I can go to the bathroom. I can get a cup of coffee. I can sit down and I can still be a few minutes early. So it's really setting that buffer up by finishing everything 5 minutes early that allows people. The second part is to set the expectations that when you say, sorry, I'm late, what you're really saying is I'm disrespectful. I don't respect our time. My time is more valuable than yours. So teaching people that saying, sorry, I'm late actually is making them look stupid.
I like that. My father ran a heavy construction company up out of Seattle for many, many years, and they were on a big dam project up just east of Seattle, a place called Spada Lake, raising a dam. And he would, try to get these jobs or these meetings underway with some of the subs, and they would keep wandering in late. And they got later and later until one day he started a meeting with just him and his secretary, waiting for these guys. And he went on, told her everything he was going to tell them. They started wandering in around, 10 after, 12 after. One guy showed up 20 minutes after, and he finished up at 30 minutes after and just said, all right, thank you very much. And the guys are going, well, wait a minute. We didn't have our meeting. We don't know what you want to do. And he said, well, ask Julie, because we're starting at 10. It's now 10:30 and I got to go. And he said they never, ever showed up late after that.
No, exactly. And when you really set that tone and set that expectation, people realize that you're serious. So it is part of it is the speed of the leader, speed of the group.
Okay. In Meeting Suck, do you also cover any sort of presentation techniques? Because I'm a big believer that, PowerPoints don't kill audiences. Presenters wielding PowerPoints riddled with bullets kill audiences.
Yeah, I actually.
So how do you keep meetings going?
I don't get into the actual use of PowerPoints or not PowerPoints, but what we get into though is proper agendas, purpose, outcomes, and agendas. Having an agenda really tight by the minute so that you know what you're covering in what order and how many minutes on each agenda item. I push people to book their meetings for half the time they first consider booking it for. So if you're going to book an hour meeting, book it for 30 minutes because you'll get it done in less time. And then putting a moderator or timekeeper in a parking lot in place so you can control the chatter and stay to the agenda. But no, I don't get into the actual presentations or use of PowerPoint on those ones.
Okay. All right. Moving right along in your library, the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. Now, I was on Facebook the other day and I'm following you, and apparently you're a runner, but you've also picked up yoga again, and you were talking on Facebook about how these are really centering you. So is the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, is this about getting yourself prepped for the day?
It is. It's about how to start your day, how to get yourself centered in your day, and then how to, my part was how to continue on with your day. So it's all the success habits of, the rest of your day. But we start off with what we call the savers. And it's first thing in the morning, having a minute of silence and just easing into your day instead of rushing into it, just staying calm, staying peaceful, breathing deeply. And then getting into your affirmations, having any of your daily affirmations that you read or repeat to yourself. Then going into visualization. What I do every day is I read my personal vivid vision. So I actually reread a 3-page description of what I want to be like 3 years from today. And I read that to myself. And then a little bit of scribing, which is just, I write in my gratitude journal, in my 5-minute journal. I'm journaling just some other thoughts and feelings that I'm going through and just starting your day off with that. And then into some reading and just taking some quiet time for yourself to read, whether it's self-help or, even just a book for fun, but just spending a little bit of time to ease in your day, and then some exercise. And when you start your day off with that kind of a habit, you're really kind of setting yourself up for pretty solid success.
And how long does that typically take you every morning?
You can start in, but 15 to a half hour, 15 minutes to a half an hour. I also have 2 other apps that I use as well. One app that I use is called Way of Life, and it's all of my daily success habits. So I track every single day whether I take my vitamins, doing reading, running, drinking water, reading my vivid vision, doing Commit to 3, drinking lemon water, gratitude journal, meditation, stretching, not drinking coffee, and yoga. So I kind of have those, and every day I just click off whether it's green or red, and it keeps track for me. And then the second one that I use is an app called Commit to 3. And Commit to 3 is where I commit my daily top 3 personal goals and my daily top 3 business goals of what I'm going to get done. I commit them to another person. They commit theirs to me, and it really helps hold me accountable.
So you got someone checking in on you saying, Cameron, where are you on this, this, and this?
And they're setting theirs with me as well. So I can kind of hold them accountable too.
So that was the Way of Life app and the Commit to 3 app.
Yeah, and both are really, really strong. I don't even know if they cost anything. I think Commit to 3 costs $3, and Way of Life, I think, is like $1.
And that's a big challenge I have. I have all the greatest intentions to roll out of bed and do what you're talking about here, and I can hold it together for a week or two. And then I'm traveling or I go on vacation or something happens, and it always upsets that apple cart. How do you overcome that? How do you find the discipline?
It's kind of like meditation. That, I learned in meditation that your mind isn't going to always be quiet, that it will wander and it will have ideas. And just when you have ideas, realize I'm having an idea and then come back to center again. So if you have a bad day that you don't start on your gratitude journal, you don't start with your morning savers, don't beat yourself up about it. Start tomorrow. Sometimes my miracle morning starts with hugging the pillow and lying in bed. And, I don't get out early and I don't get a good start on the day, but then I realize, it'll be better if I do, and I'll start tomorrow with a better path again. So rather than beating myself up about it, just realize that I have another day tomorrow.
All right, then this all comes together to, in your other book, Double, how to double your revenue and profit in 3 years or less. I'm all ears on this one. How can you help me double my revenue in 3 years or less?
Yeah, these are really the systems that I brought into 1-800-GOT-JUNK. So these are the ways that we grew College Pro Painters and Boyd Auto Body and ubarter.com, and it's the best systems related to vision and people and execution and focus, meeting rhythms, PR, it's everything. So it's almost the working systems on how to double your revenue and double your profit. And there's some specific chapters that the entrepreneur should read, and there's specific chapters that employees should read, but it's kind of too hard to give you the cheat sheets on it, because it really is 220 pages filled with the best systems to grow companies. And they're easy to implement systems that don't require an MBA to figure out.
And now, are these systems that you proofed out in these other places that you would plug them in and work through them and see what worked and what didn't work? And this is the best of the best of what you found?
Yep, exactly right. And they just work so well that, and these are the systems that I use in coaching CEOs and coaching entrepreneurs all over the world today. The world's littered with coaches, but most of them have never actually run businesses or built companies. This is what I'm known for. So these systems are the ones that I'm using now. I've got a client who I've coached in the last 4 years from 3.8 million to 52 million in 4 years. I've got another client who just raised $250 million from Warburg Pincus, and I've coached them over 4 years from 80 million to 200 million. So these are the simple systems that most people overcomplicate business. Business isn't that complicated. It's actually quite simple. So I try to strip the hiring systems, the people systems, the execution systems, the planning systems down to easy to implement systems that anyone in all companies can actually use.
So moving on, when you were working with leaders, how do you help them balance what's happening in their personal life, or what I often call their personal story that they're living into, with their professional brand story, their organizational story, and bringing those two worlds together so that they're working together, not working at odds?
I'm not sure I follow that. I'm sorry. Can you say it again?
Well, so often people I think I go back to what you're talking about your morning rituals of getting yourself balanced and not just diving headlong into the business. And so many of us get so caught up in what we're doing that it starts detracting from our personal lives and our family lives and our health, our nutrition and so forth. We get so focused on it. How in your work do you help leaders? And maybe this isn't a part of it, but I imagine it's got to be to get them to be successful.
Sure. Yeah. So really it comes down to reminding people that, this is just what we do to make money. Like, this is not our reason for being. This is not the reason we wake up in the morning. This is just what we do to make money. And we cannot put our brand on our back and think that it's our identity. At the end of the day, none of us are getting out of this alive, right? Mm-hmm. So it's reminding people of that, and reminding people that it's the healthy mind and a healthy body. Your employees need you to de-stress. Your employees need you to be balanced and grounded. Your employees need you to be aligned and excited. And if you're stressed and burned out or struggling on the family side of things, then it's not going to help. And it's just reminding yourself to kind of stay that way.
Can you share with us one of the biggest turnarounds, one of the things you're most proud of working and what we can take away from that particular relationship or that company that you helped really turn into something?
Well, 1-800 got junk for sure. I mean, we landed 5,200 stories about us. We were covered in Oprah and every major media outlet. And the fact that I built that PR team and built the culture and really hired most of the employees, I led every business area except IT and finance. So, in building out that entire organization and making so many franchisees so successful, I built the franchise program. I taught the franchisees how to make money and how to grow businesses. And a number of them, numbers and numbers of them are multimillionaires today. And I'm still friends with a lot of them. A lot of the first probably 100 franchisees that grew the big franchises in 1-800 Got Junk are still there 15, 16 years after I awarded them the franchise. And there's some huge proud moments in me that I helped create so many entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial families.
And I would imagine some of these franchisees might have been their very first experience in franchising. What did you find was hurdles, the same hurdles that came up that you had to help them overcome, or the gaps that you had to help them bridge to be successful?
Yeah, in all of their cases, it was their first business. And in all of their cases, definitely their first franchise as well. We really didn't award franchises to people who'd been out running companies before. So they needed to learn how to create a vision. They needed to learn how to hire people and how to train people and how to onboard them and how to create a culture and how to drive meetings. They needed to learn how to run companies. But I got a lot of that training at College Pro Painters, where we had 800 new franchisees every year. And I knew how to grow franchisees and grow businesses. I've been coaching CEOs and entrepreneurs since 1986. So for 30 years, I've been coaching entrepreneurs, which is pretty amazing considering I'm only 51 years old. So that was fun. It was fun creating and teaching them about all this stuff, right? About the principles of focus and about and watching them grow, and then starting to learn from them, right? Starting to see what was working in their business area that we could adapt and make part of the full system for all franchisees to use was fun too.
One of the things that struck me when I had Brian Scudamore, the founder, on Business of Story last October, is he said a line that I loved when he said, we're not a junk hauling company. We're actually a leadership company in the junk hauling business. He had such a greater, bigger purpose for 1-800 Got Junk than just to help you clean out your backyard or your garage.
Well, it's funny.
How did you have to communicate that?
Yeah, my very first day at the company, Brian wanted me to go out and spend time. He wanted me to spend 2 full days out in the trucks hauling junk. And I came in at the first day at lunch and I was getting cleaned up. And he's like, "What are you doing? You got to go back out in the trucks." I'm like, "No, I get it." He goes, "No, you don't. You haven't spent enough time in the trucks to know what we do." I'm like, "I get it. We pick stuff up, we put it in the truck, we take it out. I'm good." Like, that's not what we do. We're about customer engagement. We're about culture. We're about people. We're about operations and execution. And we have to focus on culture and people and growth. We're not about hauling junk. So we're good. And we both kind of laughed. And that's really why we became what we became. Was we obsessed in the early days around getting great people. We obsessed about building a great culture. We ranked as the number 2 company in all of Canada to work for. And I've now coached dozens of companies around the world to become the tops in their country or tops in their state to work for. Culture is by design. And, we knew that at the very early days. My first mentor, who started College Pro Painters, said that building a great business has to be slightly more than a business and slightly less than a religion. It has to be in that zone of cult. And that was one thing we were really good at building, was the culture at 1-800 Got Junk.
Slightly more than a business and slightly less than a religion?
Exactly.
I love it.
It's a cult.
That's great.
Right? And you think about it, and that's why, like, nobody walks around thinking Microsoft is a great place to be, because they don't have a culture, right? It's kind of beige. Whereas Google is almost a cult. Well, why is that? They're very similar companies. They both hire computer engineers. They're both on the left coast of the US. They're both in the technology space. They both have billions of dollars in cash. But Google decided it was about culture, and Microsoft never had the discussion. So I really focus companies around understanding how to build a great culture. And again, it's not the free bicycles and the free lunch. That stuff comes way later.
Did you find, was it difficult to get the franchisees who were first, that's their first business, it's their first franchise to buy into this culture? Did they get it at first, or did they say, "No, man, we're just hauling junk. I'm making money hauling junk"?
No, again, like a cult, if you study cults and you understand them, cults look for people that are high in affiliation, that want to be part of a group, that want to follow the systems. And if there's no systems, we'll create their own. So you find people who fit into that cult. You find people who like that culture. So we would never award a system to someone or a franchise to someone unless they fit. And we looked for people that wanted to be a part of a group, part of fraternities, part of sororities, part of, their church groups that were part of their community, that felt an identity of being a part of something. Those people would be good franchisees. You don't find good franchisees being the people that are the lone wolves that are, the radical individuals. They're not good franchisees.
That's interesting.
Because they won't come to the conference. They won't connect with the other franchisees. They won't connect online. They won't follow the systems. They won't wear the brand on their back. So we looked for the people that would be good in a cult. And, we had guys getting permanent tattoos of our company logo on their bodies. When I left, we had two guys have permanent tattoos.
All right. Where's your tattoo, Cameron?
I didn't get one. I avoided that one.
Okay. So working with the companies you do now around the world, do they often know they have a culture, either challenge or opportunity ahead of them, but they don't see it because they're so so baked into what they're doing? They're just focused on what they make versus what they make happen in people's lives? Yeah,
a lot of people don't even think about culture at all. And when you show it to them, they realize that I call it beige. Like their culture is just kind of no culture. Well, that is your culture. It's a culture of no culture. So what would you like your culture to be? Right? What gets you up in the morning? What gets you excited? Why do we exist? So it's what is your core purpose? What's your BHAG? What are your core values? What's your vision of where you're going? And then getting people who are excited about that stuff and bringing them into your program.
And then being accountable to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, being able to get up and do it every single day. There is so much changing in the world in this day and age, and with our President Trump and the conflict he's bringing into the world. Let me first ask you, what are you most excited about in the world of entrepreneurship?
I'm pretty excited about what's happening with technology right now. Just looking at what's happening with artificial intelligence and virtual reality and automation and business learning, machine learning. Just to see the speed of growth is pretty incredible to see what's happening. I think it's a little scary at the same time, but I'm pretty excited to watch what's coming.
What scares you about it?
Well, when you get into the whole, like autonomous vehicles, as an example, who makes the decision whether a vehicle swerves to the left to avoid a truck but hits a child? Does the car make that decision, or do you make that decision? Right now, our human instincts take over when we're driving, and we make decisions to save our lives or save other people's lives, but that's going to have to be programmed. That's an interesting discussion. When you look at, the fact that machines can learn faster than people and can almost start learning at a pace that they're learning on their own faster than we can control them. Google recently had to take a baseball bat to a computer because it was starting to get a little out of control and playing wars. No, true story. Like when a computer,
I did not hear that.
Yeah. When computers are able to learn faster than our ability to control them, which is what's happening now with machine learning, they can learn and continue to learn faster than we can learn. You multiply those by the number of machines that are out there, and society can grow at a pace that we're not able to control. You look at autonomous vehicles let's say in 5 or 7 years, for sure in 10 years, every vehicle on the road will be autonomous in 10 years, but in probably 4 or 5, most vehicles being sold will be. There won't be any need for taxi drivers, limo drivers, bus drivers, shuttle drivers, parking lots, driver's ed programs, car insurance companies. All of these things are gone. I don't even take my car in to get maintained because it's a Tesla. There's nothing to maintain except the brakes. When you think about mass unemployment that's going to be happening with automation, with robotics, where do those people get absorbed? 20 years ago, Bill Gates was saying it's the knowledge economy, but knowledge economy is now with machine learning and automation. You don't need people when the computer can learn faster. 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I think it was, the computer finally beat the best chess player in the world. And they said, well, it would never win at Go. And then 2 years ago, it was able to beat the best Go player in the world. And they said it could never win at poker. And last year, it beat the best poker players in the world. So they're now realizing that there's nothing that a computer can't do that is better than all of society or all of the world put together. It's just happening at a much greater speed, a much greater pace than we thought it would.
And very much on a human level, what do you think AI means for customer service? A lot of people say, oh, it'll actually, help customer service. But the argument is you are not actually talking to people anymore, that you're getting even more disconnect in the world because you're dealing with a robot or a computer versus a person. Do you share those concerns?
Not at all, because the only reason we even need customer service departments is because the product sucks, the service sucks, or we've overset expectations with the customer, or we don't have really good FAQs on our website. So if you fix your product, fix your service, put the better FAQs up, and can automate some of that customer service, you don't actually need to be talking to people at all.
That makes sense. So you've shared with us what concerned you about AI and technology. What about business in general? Do you see trends that are concerning you, or that entrepreneurs should be keeping an eye out?
Well, the leverage of technology. I think if the rate of change is greater, what's the saying now that I use? If the rate of change outside your business is greater than the rate of change inside your business, you're out of business. So you look at how fast things like the retail industry are disappearing. Retail stores, how fast that's changing. Look at how fast computers are coming into the workforce. If you're trying to compete leveraging people, you're out of work. Right? You have to start leveraging machine learning. You have to start leveraging AI. You have to start leveraging tools that allow you to communicate and work remotely. Like, look, you and I are talking over Wi-Fi and from different countries. Years ago, this had to be done over the phone, and 40 years ago, it had to be done in person. I don't meet face to face with any of my clients. I coach people all over the world, and we use Zoom video. It's a free technology. I don't even pay for it. So it's looking for ways to automate or outsource. That's another part with businesses. If you're hiring full-time employees, when you can hire fractional full-time or fractional experts from around the world, you're better off really going and working with people off Upwork or Odesk or Hire My Mom than hiring full-time people. And you can't compete. Your business won't be able to compete from a cost perspective if you're not starting to stay ahead of those curves. So I think a lot of businesses that are doing it the way they've always done it are quickly getting themselves, digging themselves into a hole.
It sounds like you've got a whole new book ahead of you right there, just talking about how to deal with this change.
Well, there's some good conferences that people can go to. Abundance 360 is a great one that really gives you some good exposure to what's happening in the business world and leveraging technology. I go to the Main Stage TED conference every year to be able to see what's happening with change and with engineering and robotics.
And so, are you bullish on the future? Are things looking bright, or?
Yeah,
what do you think?
It's just even thinking about the universal wage and the fact that governments are going to probably have to start paying people a basic living wage just to exist without unemployment, because a lot of jobs won't exist in the future. So now we're thinking about, so where will the governments get that money to be able to pay people to live if they don't have to work? Well, the idea is to tax computers and tax robotics. And then all of a sudden it gets interesting. So yeah, I'm excited about it because I think computers can give people their lives back. That most people do jobs they don't like and spend all day disconnected from friends and family. And if we can give people their lives back and computers can actually create things for us as a society, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
It's just very
absolutely different. Well, Cameron, to round out our show today, what are the 3 things that any of us can do to start, growing, expanding, getting our business straight?
The first one is the vivid vision. I cover that in 2 of my books. I cover that in Double Double, and I also cover it in The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. But really creating a vivid vision for your company, a 4-page written document that describes your company in vivid detail 3 years from now, so that you can align all of your customers, suppliers, employees, and shareholders. That's number 1. The second one is focus, and it's really helping to get your company and your employees truly focused on the critical few things versus the important many. So often we're just busy being busy. And if we can get people to focus on the critical stuff, that's important. And then the third is leadership growth. And it's really giving your people the skills and development to grow. It's the reason I started the COO Alliance, was I wanted to create a program for the second in command. There was 1 million groups for entrepreneurs, but no one was training the COO how to actually grow the entrepreneur's company for them. So we put in place the COO Alliance. I think it's focusing on growing your people. A leader's job is to grow people, and then those people will grow the company.
And Cameron, how can our listeners learn more about you and find out all the great stuff you're doing?
Sure. My books are all available on Amazon and Audible and iTunes. So Double Double, Meeting Suck. Meeting Suck is really the one they should be buying for all their employees. And then The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. And then also my main website, CameronHerold.com, has videos. If they go to the tools section, they can watch my speaking events and learn some of the systems there as well from all my 4 core speaking events.
And so you all know it's Cameron Herold, HEROLD.com. Well, thank you so much for being here with us on Business of Story. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing some of your wisdom to help us grow our businesses. I would love to take you up on that and grow mine by X amount in the next 3 years. I'll have to start reading more of your books.
There you go. Thanks, Park. I appreciate it. Look forward to catching up and having lunch soon.
And I'd like to thank you all for listening to this edition of Business of Story. You know where to go. If I can help you with tips and techniques, visit me at businessofstory.com. And you can do me a favor. If you like what you're hearing here, just tell somebody about the show, share the podcast with you, and it will start growing exponentially as well. I appreciate that. So thanks for being here, and join me next week when we will have another amazing story artist on. And until then, have a wonderful life.